Good evening, YouTubers. Joe Kersey here on Thursday, December 22nd, 2016 at, we're getting on toward 2100 Eastern Time. This time of year, you know, I think a lot of people do, I know I do, tend to start pondering matters spiritual, matters cosmic, matters of larger importance in oneself, and where one might fit in the scheme of things over vast expanses of time. Some of these things take a very specific consideration, such as contemplating the mystery of the incarnation, why God became incarnate here to dwell among us for a few years, and after his resurrection, essentially to dwell with us always in a very direct, personal way that we can connect with. And sometimes matters more cosmic, such as larger issues of cosmology, such as matters that happened even before the creation, such as the war in heaven, where the angels battled God. Satan and Satan, Lucifer, and his angels battled God's angels. The ones that decided to stay, loyal and obey God. To that end, we have. I love Gustav Doré, Paul Gustav Doré, the French engraver. He's a 19th century engraver, and we have here. You have Christ hurling the rebel angels from the open wall of heaven. That was on day 3 of the battle. If you read Revelation and various other, there's some other passages in the Bible, it implies that Michael, the archangel Michael, was the one that finally, cast Satan out of heaven. According to John Milton, here, Paradise Lost, it was Christ, the Messiah, as he's termed in the poem and in other places, that cast Satan and his angels out of heaven on the 3rd day of the battle. But Michael did strike the first wound against Satan on the 1st day of the battle. I don't have an illustration of that here. Later, you have Satan comes back into the scene, into the Garden of Eden, and he's banished from the Garden of Eden here in this engraving. And it's the Archangel Gabriel, actually, that's sending him out here. Although for the longest time I thought that was Michael, but it's actually it's Gabriel according to John Milton. Paradise Lost. Those of you who have watched some of my very early material know that I have an intense fascination with 17th century language. Hence my love of the King James Bible. Well, not just 17th century language, 16th century language as well. The archaic usages, sometimes usages that's, when you say it that way today, mean almost 100%, just the opposite. But that's me. I like that kind of stuff. So, I'm going to read y'all a little bit out of Book 6 of Paradise Lost. Not a lot, just a little bit. But this is when the battle starts. The initial speech is going to be by an angel named Abdiel. Now Abdiel, in the previous book, he had been one of Satan's boys. And he decided this wasn't for him, And so he basically told Satan to go take a hike at the end of the last book in this poem. And so he and Satan have a little colloquy, and then we get into the battle here. To whom in brief, thus Abdiel stern replied, Apostate, still thou errest, nor end wilt find of erring, from the path of truth remote. Unjustly thou depravest it with the name of servitude, to serve whom God ordains, or nature. God and nature bid the same, when he who rules is worthiest, and excels them whom he governs. This is servitude, to serve the unwise, or him who hath rebelled against his worthier, as thine now serve thee, thyself not free, but to thyself enthralled. Yet lewdly darst our ministering upbraid. Reign thou in hell thy kingdom. Let me serve in heaven God ever blessed, and his divine behests obey. Worthiest to be obeyed, yet chains in hell not realms expect. Meanwhile from me return, as erst thou saidst from flight, this greeting on thy imperious crest receive. So saying, a noble stroke he lifted high, which hung not, but so swift with tempest fell on the proud crest of Satan, that no sight nor motion of swift thought less could his shield such ruin intercept. 10 paces huge he back recoiled, the tent on bended knee, his massy spear upstayed, as if on earth, winds underground or waters forcing way, sidelong had pushed a mountain from his seat, half sunk with all his pines. Amazement seized the rebel thrones, but greater rage to see thus foiled their mightiest. Our joy filled and shout presage of victory and fierce desire of battle. Whereat Michael bid sound the archangel trumpet. Through the vast of heaven it sounded, and the faithful armies rung, Hosanna to the highest. Nor stood at gaze the adverse legions, nor less hideous joined the horrid shock. Now storming fury rose, and clamor such as heard in heaven till now was never. Arms on armor clashing braid, horrible discard, and the madding wheels of brazen chariots raged. Dire was the noise of conflict. Overhead the dismal hiss of fiery darts in flaming volleys flew, and flying vaulted either host with fire. So under fiery cope together rushed both battles main with ruinous assault and inextinguishable rage. All heaven resounded, and had earth been then, all earth had to her center shook. What wonder when millions of fierce encountering angels fought on either side, the least of whom could wield those elements and arm him with the force of all their regions. How much more of power, army against army, numberless to raise, dreadful combustion warring and disturb, though not destroy, their happy native seat. Had not the eternal King omnipotent from his stronghold of heaven high overruled and limited their might, though numbered such as each divided legion might have seemed, a numerous host in strength, each armed hand the legion led in fight, yet leader seemed each warrior single as in chief expert, when to advance or stand or turn the sway of battle open, when and when to close the ridges of grim war. No thought of flight, none of retreat, no unbecoming deed that argued fear. Each on himself relied, as only on his arm the moment lay of victory. Deeds of eternal fame were done, but infinite. For wide was spread that war in various, sometimes on firm ground, the standing fight, then soaring on main wing, tormented all the air. All air seemed then conflicting fire. Long time and even scale the battle hung. Still Satan, who that day prodigious power had shown, and met in arms no equal, ranging through the dire attack of fighting seraphim, confused at length, saw where the sword of Michael smote, and felled squadrons at once with huge two-handed sway. Brandished aloft the horrid edge came down, wide wasting, such destruction to withstand. He hastened and opposed the rocky orb of tenfold adamant, his ample shield of vast circumference. At his approach, the great archangel from his warlike toil surceased, and glad as hoping here to end intestine war in heaven, the arch foe subdued, or captive dragged in chains with hostile frown and visage, all inflamed thirst, first thus began. Author of evil, unknown till thy revolt, unnamed in heaven, now plungest as thou seest these acts of hateful strife, hateful to all, though heaviest by just measure on thyself and thy adherents. How hast thou disturbed heaven's blessed peace, and into nature brought misery, uncreated till the crime of thou rebellion? How hast thou instilled thy malice into thousands, once upright and faithful, but now proved false? But think not here to trouble holy rest. Heaven casts thee out from all her confines. Heaven, the seat of bliss, brooks not the works of violence and war. Hence then, and evil go with thee along, thy offspring to the place of evil, hell, thou and thy wicked crew. There mingle broils, ere this avenging sword begin thy doom, or some more sudden wing and vengeance from God precipitate thee with augmented pain. So spake the Prince of Angels, to whom thus the adversary, nor think thou with wind of airy threats to awe, whom yet with deeds thou canst not. Hast thou turned the least of these to flight, or if to fall, but that they rise, unvanquished, easier to transact with me, that thou shouldst hope imperious, and with threats to chase me hence? Ere not that so shall end the strife thou callest evil, but we style the strife of glory, which we mean to win, or turn this heaven itself into the hell thou fablest. Here, however, to dwell free, if not to reign. Meanwhile, thy utmost force, and join him named Almighty to thy aid. I fly not, but have sought thee far and nigh. They ended parle, and both addressed for fight unspeakable, for who, though with the tongue of angels, can relate, or to what things liken on earth conspicuous, that may lift human imagination to such height of godlike power? For like gods they seemed, stood they or moved in stature, motion, arms, fit to decide the empire of great heaven. Now waved their fiery swords, and in the air made horrid circles. Two broad suns their shields blazed opposite, while expectation stood in horror. From each hand with speed retired, where erst was the thickest fight, the angelic throng, and left large field unsafe within the wind of such commotion, such as to set forth great things by small, if nature's concord broke. Among the constellations war were sprung, two planets rushing from aspect malign of fiercest opposition in mid-sky, should combat in their jarring spheres confound together both with next to almighty arm, uplifted imminent one stroke they aim that might determine and not need repeat, as not of power at once, nor odds appeared in might or swift prevention. But the sword of Michael from the armory of God was given him tempered so that neither keen nor solid might resist that edge. It met the sword of Satan with steep force to smite, descending in an half-cut sheer, nor stayed, but with swift wheel reverse, deep entering shared all his right side. Then Satan first knew pain, and writhed him to and fro, convolved, so sore the grinding sword with discontinuous wound passed through him, but the ethereal substance closed, not long divisible, and from the gash a stream of nectarous humor issuing flowed, sanguine, such as celestial spirits may bleed. And all his armor stained erewhile so bright, forthwith on all sides to his aid was run by angels many and strong, who interposed defense, while others bore him on their shields back to his chariot, where it stood retired from off the files of war. There they him laid, gnashing for anguish and despite and shame, to find himself not matchless, and his pride humbled by such rebuke, so far beneath his confidence to equal God in power. Yet soon he healed, for spirits that live throughout, vital in every part, not as frail man in entrails, heart or head or liver reigns, but cannot by annihilating die, nor in their liquid texture mortal wound receive, no more than can the fluid air. All heart they live, all head, all eye, all ear, all intellect, all sense, and as they please they limn themselves, and color, shape, or size assume as likes them best, condense or rare. Meanwhile, in other parts like deeds deserve memorial, where the might of Gabriel fought and with fierce ensigns pierced the deep array of Moloch, furious king, who him defied and at his chariot wheels to drag him bound threatened, nor from the Holy One of Heaven refrained his tongue blasphemous, but anon down cloven to the waist, with shattered arms and uncouth pain fled bellowing. On each wing Uriel and Raphael his vaunting foe, though large and in a rock of diamond armed, vanquished Adramelech and Asmodai, two potent thrones that to be less than God disdained, but meaner thoughts learned in their flight, mangled with ghastly wounds through plate and mail, nor stood unmindful Abdiel to annoy the atheist crew. Though with redoubled blow Ariel and Ariak and the violence of Ramiel scorched and blasted overthrew, I might relate of thousands in their names, eternize here on earth, but those elect angels, contented with their fame in heaven, seek not the praise of men. The others sort in might, though wondrous in an acts of war, nor of renown less eager, yet by doom cancelled from heaven and sacred memory. Nonetheless in dark oblivion let them dwell, for strength from truth divided and from just ill-laudable, not merits but dispraise and ignominy, yet to glory aspires, vainglorious, and through infamy seeks fame. Therefore eternal silence be their doom. And now their mightiest quelled, the battle swerved with many an inroad gore, deformed rout entered and foul disorder, all the ground with shivered armor strewn, and on a heap chariot and charioteer lay overturned, and fiery foaming steeds, what stood recoiled o'erwearied, through the faint satanic host, defensive, scarce, or with pale fear surprised. Then first with fear, surprise, and sense of pain fled ignominious to such evil brought by sin of disobedience, till that hour not liable to fear or flight or pain. Far otherwise the inviolable saints in cubic phalanx firm advanced entire, invulnerable, impenetrably armed, such high advantages their innocence gave them above their foes, not to have sinned, not to disobeyed. In flight they stood, unwearied, unobnoxious, to be pained by wound, though from their place by violence moved. Now night her course began, and over heaven inducing darkness grateful truce imposed, and silence on the odious din of war. Under her cloudy covert both retired, victor and vanquished on the foughten field, Michael and his angels prevalent and camping, placed in guard their watches round. Cherubic waving fires on the other part, Satan with his rebellious disappeared, fire in the darkness lodged and void of rest, his potentates to council called by night, and in the midst thus undismayed began. And then it goes on to detail the consultations Satan had with his various minions. What a giant John Milton was. You've just got to read it aloud and just let it roll over you. So, bye-bye, YouTube.